WWE superstars are often extraordinary individuals who have had to demonstrate incredible strength and perseverance to establish themselves in the ruthless world of sports entertainment. And as you can imagine, their lifestyle is fascinating.
It's a pleasure to meet you on the Wrestling Paradise.
As we explore the case of John Cena, who is considered by many to be the greatest wrestler of all time, you will learn, among other things, what a typical day looks like for Mr. You Can't See Me. How he has managed to never stop training since he was 12 years old. All the secrets behind his routine, his mindset, and even the superhuman weights he is capable of lifting in squat and bench press exercises.
You are on the Wrestling Paradise.
The lifestyle of John Cena. Let's go!
If you want some, hurry up and come get some!
John Cena, one of the most well-known superstars in the history of WWE, is a wrestler who certainly does not go unnoticed. For about 10 years, he was the poster boy of Vince McMahon's company. He was the standard bearer for the organization during the ruthless aggression era, and the man who perhaps embodied the family-friendly approach that the Federation increasingly promoted. Among his numerous championship titles, his prestigious victories over time at WrestleMania against The Rock, Triple H, and Batista, to name just a few, and the hundreds of wishes he has fulfilled for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, Mr. You Can See Me is an individual whose values such as perseverance and fighting spirit have inspired millions of people around the world. One of the key observations one can make when looking at the leader of the nation is that he has had a bodybuilder physique for many years. He actually tried to pursue a career in bodybuilding before turning to wrestling. He has often demonstrated strength worthy of Superman in WWE, performing his attitude adjustment move on giants like Big Show, for example. And he notably stated about his former rival in the ring, "No one has ever lifted me like John Cena. I've never seen anyone so strong, and when you're on his shoulders, you can be sure you won't move." He is literally like a machine. So at that moment, I ask you, seeing all this, how can one become such a machine? What are Mr. Hustle, loyalty, respect secrets in terms of diet, fitness, and mindset to reach such a level? But also by noting his physical evolution over time, especially from the moment he dedicated himself more to his acting career in Hollywood. What adjustments has he made to his lifestyle all these years? All these questions are exciting and essential to realize how much of a champion John Cena is, both in the ring and outside of it. It is already very interesting to study his diet and how it completely reflects his physical transformation between his prime in WWE and the time when he became a part-timer, focusing more on cinema. At the time when he had that invincible bodybuilder appearance, his daily diet was based on a few fundamental principles that were as follows. Stay away from junk food and eat something if it breathes or if it's green. So it's true that phrasing it this way might sound strange, but in reality, John was simply saying that if a food comes from an animal, like meat or fish, or if it's a green vegetable, he can consume it. In general, it is primarily about making good decisions regarding which foods to prioritize and which ones it is better to avoid. This is also what he advised when he designed a training program that was originally intended for his father, which allowed him to lose weight, eat healthily for 6 days, and indulge only on the butch 7th day. In fact, the most telling thing is to directly observe the routine he had when he was still a full-time wrestler. Indeed, he said that he usually gets up between 6 and 7 a.m. and that for breakfast he either has a drink with about 60 grams of protein powder mixed with milk and water, or a scramble of 4 eggs, spinach, bacon, and sautéed vegetables. Next, his day was governed by a major principle. He had to eat every 3 hours, knowing that a meal could sometimes consist of just a 230-calorie protein bar or a protein drink. His typical days generally lasted until 11 p.m., even though he also mentioned that he slept between 1 and 4 hours per night for 5 days and could sleep between 8 and 12 hours on the dough's 6th day before starting this sleep cycle again in the following days. In any case, as one might expect, at the time when he was the face of WWE and had a hectic daily life filled with matches in televised and non-televised shows around the world, media appearances, interviews, commercial shoots, and films, and of course training, his life was so full and intense that there was almost no room for sleeping. By the way, as a side note, during the many trips he took, he mentioned that he wasn't the type to listen to music, but rather to radio shows to get an idea of what was happening in the news. And before each match, he always had the ritual of taking 3 boxes of Tic Tac. In any case, it is only logical that during this phase of his career, he was eating regularly, with a particular emphasis on protein. Since this seems to be the mantra of most wrestlers, but where his case is different from others, is that he has changed his goals over time, and that his priorities as an actor in Hollywood are not the same as those he had as a wrestler. While before, his entire daily routine was centered around the idea of being as strong and impressive as possible physically, he has started to place more importance on longevity, even if it means losing several pounds of muscle. In any case, he himself says that he started lifting weights intensely at the age of 12, and that he has been doing it for several decades, which is a lot. His change in mentality can be best summarized by this ambiguous phrase he said: "When I was in WWE, I tried to be my strongest version every day. From now on, I try to be able to lift weights when I am 80 years old. So, I need to take a little more care of myself for the long term. Now, he pays more attention to his recovery. He always makes sure to warm up well and prepares his nervous system and mind before any physical activity. Moreover, and this is quite surprising coming from him, given the image we might have of him from his years in WWE, he admitted that he would make a bad soldier because he would be unable to wake up and head out to the battlefield on a whim. In his new daily life, where he is often filming all day, Cena has lighter meals, and he is more flexible with food than before. At the restaurant, for example, he will choose a healthy dish, whereas in the past, he always brought his meals with him everywhere. This same evolution can be seen in his approach to training. Moreover, can you believe that he has a degree in sports physiology and owns his own gym in Tampa, Florida, called Hard Knock South, a name that nods to the first gym he went to when he was younger, which was called Hard Knock. One could say that at the time when he was still a full-time wrestler, John Cena was a true war machine in the gym. In principle, after warming up, he generally trained 4 days a week, 2 days focused on the lower body and 2 on the upper body. This included exercises with movements that engage multiple muscle groups, as well as pushing and pulling. And above all, he had his favorite exercises: squats, snatches, his 2 favorite exercises, deadlifts and rowing. And for your information, the bicep curl is the exercise he likes the least. His goal was to be stronger every day, and this was clearly evident, because in the squat exercise, he was able to lift, hold on to your hats, 277 kilograms, and 200 kilos on the bench press, superhuman numbers. He arrived at the gym like a soldier who has no seconds to waste, in sessions lasting a maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, without listening to music, and with his coach and friend Rob McIntyre, who filmed him to later analyze together the tiny mistakes he could make in his movements. It is worth noting that he was even more intense in his training approach when he was younger, as he loved to do sets of 500 repetitions of leg press. As a side note, believe it or not, his colleague Big Show mentioned that even today, Cena loves to go to gyms around the world, to look at the records of the gym in question in different exercises, break all of them, and leave without telling anyone. This says a lot about the competitor he is, but now he only trains twice a week. By paying attention to warming up properly, stretching, and recovering well by getting a massage right afterward, and above all, by doing yoga, an activity he started while filming Project Extraction with Jackie Chan, which allowed him to become much more flexible, to feel better in his body, to be more flexible, even though it immediately caused him to lose about 10 kilos. Something that had really depressed him, because he felt like he was watching all the efforts he had made over the past 30 years go up in smoke. So with Cena, we understand it well. He wanted to take care of his body as he aged to stay in shape. And also because, according to the stuntman who doubles for him in dangerous scenes, he believes that being leaner and less broad looks better on camera. However, from a mental perspective, he remains an absolute reference. His advice is particularly valuable, considering we are talking about someone who has never stopped training since he was 12 years old and has managed to maintain an impressive physique for at least 20 years. And this is something that is crucial for him in his outlook on things. The most important thing is to be consistent. He believes that we often overthink and that we must prioritize making good choices. But above all, never stop. Always continue training without giving up. And this is something that connects to the other element he emphasizes a lot when giving advice: being patient. In his own case, he must have been, because he only started to see real, noticeably visible results from weight training after about 4 years of training, knowing that he initially started because he was bullied at school and wanted to appear more intimidating so that people would leave him alone. What also helps him a lot in having this champion mindset is taking pleasure in all his efforts. Whatever it may be, whether it's what he does at the gym or in all other aspects of his life, he approaches each day wanting to be as productive and positive as possible. And perhaps that is one of the keys to being as consistent and competitive as John Cena has been throughout his career. Not to endure his efforts, but to love them, to thrive in them. As he said, every time I leave the gym, I can't wait to go back to try to do better than what I did this time. What a mindset this John Cena has. I also have some other interesting points to add about his state of mind and even his overall mentality regarding life, which further highlights how much he has evolved over the years. Already in 2024, he stated in an interview that he advises everyone, regardless of our reality, our life goals, or our daily lives, that what is essential for him and what has contributed to his success is simply making the right decisions. Therefore, not making bad decisions and knowing how to distinguish. For example, in his diet, simply what is healthy or unhealthy, what is harmful to his health and success, and what is not. So obviously this also involves being clear about all of this, which John Cena certainly is. And it's true that what stands out immediately, when taking a step back to observe the evolution of his physique, even his overall mentality, is that there is a before and after Hollywood. Clearly, when this became his priority in life, he changed. It's not just a physical transformation. Well, this one is obvious. You'd have to be blind not to notice that between the John Cena of his prime in WWE, I would say between 2005 and 2013, and the John Cena we've seen in the meantime, there is clearly a huge difference in muscle mass, tanning, and even his haircut. That's a small detail, but it matters, along with the beginning of his baldness. Unfortunately, he remains human. In short, it's not just that. There's also the human being inside. And it's true that we can only commend his desire to inspire people on Twitter, for example. So it's very funny because, as much as on Instagram, John Cena is someone who posts very mysterious, even absurd, cryptic, surreal content. But on Twitter, he primarily seeks to inspire people. And that is truly admirable on his part. If I take a step back and we reflect together on what lessons we can apply from John Cena, which he notably mentioned on Twitter, in general, for our lives, clearly, for him, the main idea is already there: to be a machine that applies, executes, and gives the maximum no matter what. He also takes what is given to him, and that is really very characteristic of John Cena. For example, often we can questions to John Cena asking what he would have liked to do or what he would like to do for those, regarding what kind of opponent he would like to have in WWE. Essentially, what he would like his life and career to look like in X months or X years. His philosophy is always, and we can draw inspiration from it, I take what I'm given and make the best of it, period. That's always his approach, and it's really a mentality that isn't often found in many people, including WWE wrestlers who have managed to have great careers. Often we hear the opposite. We often hear them say, "No, I fought to get what I wanted, to impose perhaps my own vision, believing in my own vision." Whereas John Cena is not like that at all. I stay quiet. I take what I'm given, and I try to do my best to make it as good as possible. And that we can. What we really respect about him, something that characterizes him, is of course his comebacks from injuries, often much earlier than expected. We all think of the Royal Rumble 2008, where he was not supposed to be back at all. And what did he reveal about that? Very interesting. He said that simply, the doctor's predictions of him returning a few months later were mainly based on a schedule of 3 work sessions per week. And John is not someone normal. He is, let's say, not an ordinary patient for these doctors. He, on the contrary, worked out 3 times a day. And that is what also allowed John Cena to come back so quickly. What also sets him apart from many athletes is that he works, in this case, X times harder than a normal person. Hence his success, and this is something we can really draw inspiration from. It's also worth noting, which is quite amusing, since John Cena has often been compared to Superman, his character, and even, I feel, in life in general, at least from what he projects or his speeches in interviews, it seems like we see someone invincible or someone who is like a robot, but he has kryptonite. A question he was asked in an interview, to which he responded that his kryptonite is that he is generally too stubborn, but it is something he has tried and continues to work on improving. And we can draw a lesson from this. We can see that the limits of being a machine that applies, executes, and gives the maximum, as John Cena has always done, also include knowing how to question oneself and being flexible. And we'll finish with a little anecdote that I find very striking about him. Well, I don't know if you knew this, but it's a detail that, while seemingly minor, is actually important to John Cena, so it's worth mentioning. Did you know that John Cena has a small watch in his pocket, at least in his life today, on which there are described quotes, one on one side that says, "Comparison is the enemy of joy," and on the other, "Memento mori," which means, "Remember that you will die." And he admitted in an interview that he touches it when he feels uncomfortable or uneasy somewhere or in a situation. And he admitted that it happens quite often, since let's not forget that he has meetings in Hollywood, he has job interviews in his own way, in his own reality. And he said that he doesn't feel comfortable somewhere, that when he touches that object, it's a little bit like a symbol for him. One could also say that it might be a bit of a lucky charm as well, and those phrases are still very interesting. One can say that John Cena also has moments when he feels uncomfortable or not confident. First of all, this is information that makes him more human, but also the phrases in question. The comparison is the enemy of joy. So the idea is not to compare oneself to others, but also the idea of enjoying every moment and not having regrets by remembering that we are going to die. These are small elements that I wanted to highlight. I will also conclude by mentioning something that might be John Cena's mantra over the years, which can apply to a lot of different situations. He has often said this phrase, "Control what is controllable." Clearly, it shows that throughout his life, he has wanted to apply this perspective by not wasting energy or time or emotions on things that were not in his hands, but rather focusing on what is in his hands and doing the maximum with it. For all these reasons, we can still say bravo to John Cena for everything he has accomplished and respect all that he has done. And this is how this video on John Cena's lifestyle comes to an end. We were able to see how Mr. Cena's mentality, hustle, loyalty, respect is exemplary for his fans, who have managed to maintain a champion's mindset for years and evolve his lifestyle by focusing on new concerns. We have been able to witness his physical and mental evolution throughout his wrestling career. And this is precisely the opportunity to propose an interesting debate. Do you prefer John Cena's version at WrestleMania 39, for example? Or what about all those years when he was the poster boy of WWE? Let us know what you think. It will be interesting to discuss this together in the comments and share our opinions.
We can say that this topic raises a lot of questions. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay in the paradise of wrestling to look at some other ones. See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. What?